I'm John Berman.
And I'm Poppy Harlow. Coming up, the political comedy routine of the year, the event that might have launched Donald Trump on the path to the presidency. Seriously, Washington gathers to celebrate journalism.
A breakout comedian prepares to skewer those journalists, and no doubt the president himself. We saw him moments ago ducking the event, but can he duck the punchlines? All right, welcome back to our special live coverage of tonight's White House Correspondents' Dinner. I'm John Berman alongside Poppy Harlow, back for real. So comedian Michelle Wolf, she will soon take the stage. She is the headline performer tonight. The president will not be in the room for the roast.
That was a very, very clear and political decision for him and his team. Second year in a row, he is skipping it, going to what he calls real America, to be with real people at this rally he just held in Michigan. 90 minutes. The president spoke for 90 minutes, surrounded by some of his biggest supporters. Nevertheless, the so-called nerd prom, as they call it here in Washington, D.C., must go on.
That's because when reporters dress up and try to look nice, they can't stop it for anything. It happens once a year.
Stripes and checkers, as Phil Mudd noted.
Phil Mudd was so upset about it, he had to leave. Phil Mudd was so offended. You know,
he threw his pen and
left
to go get watered-down drinks at Nerd Prom. First, let's check in with our White House correspondent, Boris Sanchez. He is at the president's rally, and the president just wrapped up 90 minutes full of some major headlines and a threat to a Democratic senator.
Oh, that's right, Poppy and John. Hard to keep up with all the news that the president made in the past hour and a half. He kicked off the event by saying that he was invited to a different event in Washington, D.C., not Washington Township, where we just spent the past hour and a half, but said that he would prefer to be here among his supporters than to be insulted by phony people and then having to smile during it. The president took aim at some of his favorite targets, including the press, obviously, and Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the governor of California, Jerry Brown, and then also took aim at Montana Senator Jon Tester, saying that Tester was throwing things out there about Ronnie Jackson, his nominee to be the secretary of the VA. The president saying, and I quote, "I could say things too about Tester, and if I said them, he'd never be elected again." The crowd ate it all up, including one part in which the president was discussing conversations with North Korea about denuclearization. Listen to what the crowd was chanting at the president.
That's very nice, thank you. That's very nice. Nobel.
The president hearing from the crowd suggesting that he should win the Nobel Peace Prize for his work to bring North Korea and South Korea back to the table, though the president did acknowledge that it was too soon to celebrate, that we would still have to see how things played out in that regard. One final sort of strange note, Poppy and John, the president at one point saying that Vladimir Putin planted Natalia Veselnitskaya, that attorney that was in Trump Tower during a meeting with Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr., and others. He suggested that Putin planted her and made her say that she was a Kremlin informant this week, in part to sow chaos within the United States and potentially to create more questions about the president moving forward. John and Poppy.
All right, Boris Sanchez for us in Washington Township, Michigan. Back to Washington, D.C., where we are and where the political glitterati are tonight, to be sure. The White House Correspondents' Dinner. CNN senior media correspondent, host of Reliable Sources, on the red carpet at the event.
I have to fact check you, John. I don't think I'm glittering at all.
Actually, you are. Whole other subject right there. Brian, what do we expect tonight?
Well, you know, we were hearing from the president just now at his rally saying the reporters here at the Correspondents' Dinner hate your guts. He was talking to his voters saying they hate your guts. That is obviously not true. And I think that one of the messages we're hearing inside the dinner, and we will hear in the next couple of hours, is about what brings everybody together, that everybody wants a free and fair and vibrant press. Everybody relies on the First Amendment, whether that's to support the president or argue with him or seek out information about him. Obviously, the message about the First Amendment has become a greater theme here at this dinner for the past couple of years because of the president's decision to skip the dinner. You have to go back to Reagan in 19 1981. That's the last time a president chose not to be here, and that was after his assassination attempt. Reagan was recovering, so he decided to call in instead. He decided to participate in the dinner by phone. Of course, 2 years in a row, Trump going a different direction. In my mind, it's another example of polarization, that he wants to wage a war on the people who cover him every day. But I got to be honest, people in the ballroom, people here at the dinner, they're not thinking so much about President Trump and his absence. Instead, they're thinking about the great journalism and talking about the value of the press in this very polarized world.
You know, it's interesting. We're going to hear from Michelle Wolf, the headliner, the comedian. And as she's been writing her jokes for tonight, Brian, she just told CBS News that it is, in her words, cowardly of the president not to be there. And she'd rather make fun of someone to their face than not to their face. He's not going to be in the room. That's
a really interesting point. A lot of Trump's aides, his allies, are going to be in the room. That's a change from last year. I was talking with Sarah Sanders earlier, Kellyanne Conway last night. A lot of Trump's aides are out on the festival circuit this weekend and showing up at all these White House Correspondents' parties. Look, there is a reality here that this weekend of parties and events can sometimes seem excessive. But at its heart, at its core, it is about recognizing the role of media in a democracy. And, you know, that's why Sarah Sanders is on stage, is going to be a part of the event tonight. I'll have to keep an eye on her face as Michelle Wolf weighs in and makes some jokes later.
Brian Stelter on the red carpet. We will let you go party now excessively. Thank you so much for being with us.
A lot of headlines out of the president's 90-minute speech at this rally in Washington Township, Michigan, on North Korea, on that Russian lawyer. We'll get to all of those in just a moment.
Plus, President Trump wants this comedian to play him on Saturday Night Live. Daryl Hammond joins us to talk about that. And the comedian we just mentioned, Michelle Wolf, getting ready to roast politicians and the media alike. I've been watching her stuff. She is really funny. I think we're in for something special and unexpected tonight. Stick around. This is CNN Special Live coverage.